Oh, hello, and today we're going to look at how the Dallas Fuel successfully used Talon Dive to counter Hunter's Far Mercy and spam strategy. Fuel, despite not having a hit scan, they won against Hunters, who ran like Far Mercy in two of these three rounds, and a really annoying Torb comp in like the end of this round and like the third round. So uh, Dallas feel they're rolling out on like the sim just to get to the point faster, and both teams are doing this. But Sparkle's gonna switch Tracer, and Jinmu's gonna switch to the Pharah, with Nisha switching to the Mercy.
One. Round one. Capture the objective.
As you can see now, like Fuel do get there faster because of their mobility, which will force Hunters to like take the point if they want to, win control of it. And as you can see, their Hunters are trying to like poke out this comp before it can engage on Mamonk, Diana, and like as you can see, like the Fuel are currently trying to like stabilize on point, wait for their cooldowns to come back after using them to get to point in the first place, and they're gonna look to have Sparkle, who had to like set up the sim TP, so he is a bit behind the rest of the team in terms of like the rollout, but like he's while like Fuel are waiting for their movement abilities to come back, they're gonna look to set up Sparkle on the flank, so right here, and they're gonna look to set up Doha on the flank next to like Mamonk, who is probably gonna be like their target. As you can see, they skirmish a bit, and then Field noticed that like Gaga like engaged, used his cooldowns, used his grapple, but there's nothing to peel for him. Like Sparkle is forcing Elsa to peel back, but Gaga is looking to like pressure like Hunter like feels his backline, and in this case, Feel recognized that hey, Gaga's like out of position and without movement cooldown, so we're just gonna go hack Gaga, and then we're all gonna just collapse on him, and he dies. Now the problem with this is that like with this comp is that it's really hard to deny res because you have like without like having your tracer next to like wherever the res location is, because you do have like no long range like potential here. So while Fuel are looking to stabilize, and they do have to stabilize, they use their bubble here, but like while Fuel are looking to stabilize here, Nisha does land the res on Gaga, but now like recognizing that Mamonk is in a position where it's hard for Hunters to peel back for him, and like recognizing that Elsa probably used like, let's see how much Matrix he used. That, and also like recognizing that Elsa is probably not in the best position. Like Elsa will have to like use movement cooldowns to get back to Mamonk. Like they just go for him, and Sparkle goes in, and boom, they get the kill. And that good boop by Jexay like secures the fight, even though Fearless dies. And like in terms of target calling, like in this comp, you don't really want to like go for one target and stop. You want to like keep the pressure on as long as you can, as long as your cooldowns will allow. So like after killing like Mamonk, like they go for Nisha, who dies to like Fielder. They use the bubble provided by Fearless, and they look to stay in for as long as possible, and they get the kills. So now Fuel are on the defense, but they are close to ultimates. So, and when they're close to ultimates, they're going to look to combo at least two of these ultimates to try to like win the fight quickly before like Hunters, they can set up like poke angles on Fuel, and before Hunters can look to contest the point. As you can see, now Fuel they play split because they recognize that like if Hunters like try to poke them out, they will either have to go here and play for play for like a significant amount of like poke before like they can actually go in, or like they will have to like go into like this death trap that Fuel is setting up for them. And now, without hesitation, look at what happens. They recognize that like hunters are now in open space and they have not cleared the angles yet. So this is like the go time. This is the probably like a really good time to engage. And Fuel, what do? They look to they go in and like recognizing that like Fielder can just build like his ult like in mere seconds. They just go in and they pop the ult like 1 second later, and it doesn't really matter in that case that like Fielder doesn't have ult yet. And the engage like forces them for hunters to like pop counter ults, but by then it's too little too late. This comp excels in short sight lines against like hunters is like more poke oriented comp, and hunters they just die. So in this fight, Fuel set up split apart. Fuel recognized that like if hunters try to like poke them out, they would have to like take this long rotation here and play for a long fight, which gives Fuel a lot of like capture percentage, or they will have to go under here or here, which will allow Fuel to like engage early, engage into like Fuel's angles, and allow them to just go in and win the fight. So as you can see, like Fuel, like they're not going to just sit here next fight. They have ultimate, so like they're not gonna allow like hunters to just stage the fight that they want. They're gonna go in fast and aggressive. They're gonna not allow themselves to be poked out. And right here, Doha's getting back to the fight, and they're gonna play slow until then. But once so notice that like hunters, they are trying to set up angles like before like Doha comes back, but like thanks to the really good mobility of this comp, it's really hard to like exploit those opportunities. And like by playing split like this, it forces hunters into a very vulnerable position. And as hunters push into Fuel's map control, as hunters like push into where Fuel have a lot of angles, Fuel just look to EMP and they win the fight really easily. And they probably over ult here, but like it doesn't matter. I mean, like it's 80, they're like 86%. They could pop like all the ults they want. It wouldn't be overcommitting. And like Gaga comes, but like if he goes in, he just gets hacked, and they can all just focus him and deal with the rest as they're coming back. So right here we demonstrated how Fuel punished like Gaga for being split. So punishing targets are split with this comp, which is really important. And we also demonstrated how like Fuel, like instead of like letting the enemy set up their own fight, they always like look to engage with ultimates, and they always look to engage first before the enemy can even like can even like set up a good attack on the point. So Fuel, they lost the second round, but this isn't really interesting because Fuel did make a lot of mistakes in the execution of this comp here. So we're gonna skip this, but let's look at the Sanctum round. As you can see, they're rolling out. They have the sim, and they're gonna look to stage Doha in an advanced position, and they're gonna look to engage right here. And with Hunters' comp, they're gonna look to go for like spam angles. They're gonna look to poke out Fearless and Hanbin and Jexei before like they can go in and engage with a lot of resources. But Fuel recognized that they're running a Far Mercy comp, which means the Ana will be isolated. And like I think the Doha scouted out because let me see. So so like they recognizing that like since like monk will not receive as much peel as if he had a brig, and also like Field probably knew that hunters like had a tendency to run Far Mercy. Like they did run it like the past 2 rounds, so they were expecting a Far Mercy. But the weakness is just that like there are less players on the floor to peel for Hunters' backline. So they just go in and they just meanwhile that's happening, Doha like seeks to hack like Gaga, who could like try look to slam and have Jinmu try to finish off like Fielder or Jexay. So like Doha here, instead of hacking like the target that like Fielder are looking to kill, in this case is Mamonk, Doha decides to hack the dangerous target instead, and in this case Gaga falls to his death. And this dive like is not peeled off in time, and Fuel they just win. And Jexay, they lost Jexay, but Fuel like just win the fight too quick. So as you can see, like not only like the synchronization of the dive is good from Fuel's part, like the moment Fearless goes in, like everyone moves in, and like they're not, and like they're trying to like minimize their use of cooldowns if possible, of like movement cooldowns. This map doesn't have that long sight lines, or even though like it is like good enough for Far, but like since this map doesn't have like that long sight lines, they can quickly look to close the distance with their Lucio, and they just move in. As you can see, Fielder's just like walking up to the enemy, and they still have amp to use, so like they're conservative with their cooldowns, which is good. It allows them to dodge like Jinmu shots if needed, and it allows them, if Gaga stayed alive, then they could look to like disengage if needed. So like now that they won the fight, it's gonna be really hard for Hunters to like retake, because Fuel like they get to hold the sight lines they want. They get to hold really short sight lines, but that doesn't mean Fuel are just gonna sit there. Fuel are gonna look to like engage aggressively. As you can see, the moment that they try to push into like this mega room, Fuel recognize, hey, this is in our kill box, this is in our area of influence. So we have angles here and here. So what are we gonna do? We're just gonna look to engage. Three, 2, 1. They should look to engage anytime now. And right there they played slow initially to allow Fielder to build ult. So like they hold the space. They don't allow like Hunters to enter a more open space in which they could set up angles. They could look to set up angles to try to punish the engage as it goes in. They could look to like stun and then have leave, try to like split apart a bit and look to poke them out. But they hold the space so that like they can't establish angles, but at the same time they look to take a bit of poke. They look to build key ults like their Coalescence, which, as I mentioned on the first part of this series, that it's a really common opening ult, especially on like control maps, because it is probably the first ult to be built in like the round. So they just win with Coalescence. Like Hunters, they have no ult to like counter this. And the fight's just won. They just win the fight so easily because, and like this is probably the biggest like benefit of Talon Dive. Like you're gonna get like the first ult if you play correctly. You're gonna get Coalescence, which is powerful like as in tempo ult to like go in aggressively and to finish a fight off. So let's see what they do here. Now like Field could try to do the same thing. They could try to hold this mega room and like hold the area around it, but like Field actually go for like an insanely good play. because like if they give hunters too much time, they're gonna set up Jinmu behind. They're gonna set up Leave on an angle possibly, and like they're just gonna have Nano Monkey, and then they're gonna look to force out Fuel's cooldowns and force them to use it for the disengage. But in this case, Fuel are having none of it. They just go in with EMP, and they go in all at the same time, and this is an easy team fight win. And more importantly, they didn't just int in. They set up some positions. This is a really important part, but they set up like a pincer. They have Sparkle stage here. Like, this is a deliberate plan. It isn't just like an ad hoc decision. This is a deliberate plan by Fuel, which I really like. And like, they go in, Sparkle goes in from behind, and look, it's just an easy team fight win. And now, Fuel like are going in this fight without like ultimates to use other than Beat, and like Beat plus Bomb isn't that strong enough to be like something that will win fights consistently. Not even with Pulse Bomb, I think, unless Sparkle gets really lucky with it. So in this case, I think Fuel are just gonna play more defensively. Because like if they try to like engage, then Nisha's gonna get the rally, and like they're just gonna like sustain themselves and die. So Fuel are basically gonna play slow, and they're probably gonna play for like the Coalescence, and Coalescence plus Beat could be a good enough combo to just go in. And so right here, they're playing a bit split to maintain some of the map control, so that hunters they can't just take the map from them. They're focusing Gaga, who like then pops the primal, which gives space for them to push in. And they go for an engage, but like the bomb doesn't land. They got the coal, but like hunters, they win this fight because of ultimates. Like, the rally just prevents them from dying. The rally's one of the strongest counters to this comp in general. And, they have a Nano Monkey in the backline, so they not... Wait, who did they nano? Oh, they nanoed Leave. They nanoed Leave, which will, like, do a lot of damage to, like, the divers who are going in. And meanwhile, like, hunters are gonna win a trade because they have a Nano Monkey while, like, their backline can sustain themselves with, like, ultimates. So, like, even though, like, Fuel, they commit 3 ults, they cannot, like, win this because Rally just, like, stops anyone from hunters from dying, basically. So, they pop a beat, which is probably not necessary. Yeah, that's a bad beat. I don't like it. But, here, hunters, they make a critical mistake, which allows the Fuel to just push in. So, Doha is close to ultimate, but, they have 2 options here. They could either let Doha poke from range, or they could go for, like, soft engages, allow Doha to farm, use their cooldowns to, like, disengage, and then they pop the EMP. Or, like, they could look for, like, an aggressive fight, and they could look because, like, Fearless will farm Primal, and then they look to EMP. You can see they're taking their time here. They walk up a bit. They look to... And look, this is actually a mistake by Gaga, but it was good executed by, like, Fuel. So, Doha, like, scouting is really important with this comp, by the way. Like, since, like, the core play stacked together, you won't have a lot of information about, like, where the enemy is, like, setting up, like, from your core. So, like, you need your Sombra to be communicating where the enemy is set up. And in this case, they notice that Gaga is played really split. So, in this case, they just go in, and they just collapse on Gaga. He gets a hack, and then, look, they go in, and then, importantly, they stabilize in here. They stabilize next to this cover. And, instead of, like, stabilizing here, which would put them vulnerable to poke, they stabilize right here, and then they look to, like, recharge their cooldowns. They're probably gonna, like, wait for at least the leap to come back, or the bubble. And instead of waiting for, like, all the cooldowns to recharge, they just go for it. They recognize that, like, if they leave it for too long, then Jinmu could go for counter EMP. So like they just go now, and if they get a pick, that's good enough. They have no main tank anymore. They can't, and as long as they control the point. So here's the thing, like they were 99% right. Like even if they pop all their ults and they only zone off the enemy from the point, then that's value already. That's a lot of value because like then hunters will have to hurriedly try to like take this point without any main tank and try and then like inevitably like try to like go in and then feed because you don't have a main tank to hold the space or to draw aggression. So the squishies will have to go into point, and against this comp, you don't want to be like isolated on point. So like Fuel, they recognize that Gaga's isolated, they collapse on him. More importantly, they stabilize, and then they look to just go in with ultimates. So really well played by Fuel.